Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know that we have friends and church leaders from all over the country and all over the world joining us for this one of a series of webinar interviews that we're just calling Equipping Families Through COVID-19 and Beyond. We have come together as family ministry leaders with a great desire to see unique in our churches and in our families during this unprecedented time. So we welcome you. We thank you for being here with us. I'm Jenna Halleck. I serve the Ministry of Family Time Training, and I have the great pleasure of sitting with, virtually of course, Scott Turansky of National Center for Biblical Parenting. So welcome, Scott.
Hey, it's great to be with you. I just want to encourage all you folks that all of us have gathered together to design these webinars for you, and you're going to hear some great things from each one of the presenters over the next few recordings, and you're going to want to listen to those because we're very eager to equip you now, but not just now, but all for the future so that you can develop family ministry in your church.
Absolutely. And we have created one landing page where all of this is happening. All the information that you need to either register or watch recordings is at equipfamilies.net. Equipfamilies.net, you're going to see options for each of these recordings and or live webinars. So if you have not yet, go ahead and browse that page. As Scott mentioned, we think you'll find some excellent content that will encourage you and equip you to reach the families that you serve. So whether you are a layperson or on staff at a church, we hope that this will be great information for you. If there's something that you're wanting to hear that we haven't mentioned, or if you need some clarification, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that at any point during the broadcast. Please feel free to use that function to ask a question to Scott. Today we're talking about strategic ministry to parents and to grandparents. And we really want to get to the heart of how to help parents in their God-given role, in their mission to pass the faith on to the children that they love. So Scott, talk to us about some of the things that churches can do in this challenging time in particular to help parents.
Sure. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Scott Turansky, and I head up the National Center for Biblical Parenting, and we have two divisions. One is to work directly with parents to equip them to work with their children using a heart-based approach, and the other whole department we have is equipping churches to develop family ministries. So we have a lot of resources that we can provide for you in order to do that. Let's talk about how you might develop family ministry in your church. If you're trying to do that, you're going to work with parents and you're going to help them to grow and develop, then the very first thing that you're going to want to do is not just hand them a book or maybe not even start a small group, but what you want to do is start to create a culture, because we know there's a need in the lives of parents today. They know they need help with their children, but is the church a place where they can find it? The answer is yes, but the church has to foster a sense of integrity, a sense of credibility that we have an answer that we can provide. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start identifying people that are interested, shooting them out quality emails, maybe making some statements into their lives. For example, let's just take the concept of attitude. Attitude's a problem in many homes. So did you know that the attitude is something that comes from the heart of a person? Hebrews 4:12 says that the scriptures are sharper than any double-edged sword, penetrating the thoughts and the attitudes of the heart. So if the attitudes exist inside of the heart of a person, then that means we need to be able to deal with things deeper than just behavior modification. How are we going to do that? So once we understand that there's a biblical concept of the heart, then we can shoot out messages to parents and say, hey, here's an idea for dealing with attitudes in your family. Attitudes are non-verbally communicating a dissatisfaction with what's going on. And often we can just say to our kids, hey, wait, we got a problem here. I can tell that you're not happy by your rolling of your eyes, your disgusted look, that attitude. Let's stop for a minute. You're communicating a message. What is that message? Do you think I'm being unfair by asking you to clear the table here? Or do you think I've done something wrong? Talk to me about it. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we need to change what's going on. So what we have to do is produce for parents things that are practical. Parents know that the church is a place where they're finding spiritual growth and spiritual solutions. But we have to come in and develop some credibility. Once we develop that credibility in the lives of our children, then we can come along in the lives of those parents, and we can share more specifically some things that will help them to grow. I would suggest there's a lot of ways that we can help our parents make decisions and change, and we've outlined a lot of different tools that you can use in order to develop and foster the parent discipleship program in your church. This is one example of a download you can get off of our website. Let me show you another one. This is a roadmap for building the parenting ministry in your church, how you're going to get from one place to another. It starts, though, with building credibility with those parents, and when you do, then you kind of earn the right to plan an event. You earn the right to get involved in their lives, or have a small group focused on parenting or something like that. So what we're suggesting here is that we're trying to help parents make some significant changes in the way they work with their children. We got to start with credibility, building that, and then we could program. Credibility first, build relationship, then we start programming, and we get a lot of ideas about how to make that happen.
Well, that is excellent. And I love that they can, attendees can find that on your website. It's biblicalparenting.org, where they can see those particular graphics. Is that right, Scott?
That's right, yes.
Excellent. So it sounds like you've really got a strategy here for helping churches develop family ministries. And it's that practical piece that's what we know families need. It's one thing to say, okay, go talk to your kids about their attitude. It's another thing to give them very practical ways that they can do that. So can you tell us a little more, unpack a little more about how that could happen?
Yes. So once you've established some credibility by shooting out emails to even parents who aren't even asking for them, but you're saying, hey, we're investing in families in our church. Here's an email about attitudes, or here's some solutions for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or here's some, if your child's having a problem with anger episodes, whether they're 3 or 18, here's some solutions. Once you're sending those things out, you're building this credibility, and you have built then a foundation upon which you can plan what we call activities. And the activities depend on your church's environment and location. Sometimes those activities might be an event, like a small group that meets for support and teaching, or maybe it's a large group event with a live speaker coming in and teaching. Or maybe it's a Facebook prayer group for moms and dads of teenagers. Or maybe it's working with preschool moms somehow. So each of one of those events or activities then become part of what fills out your parent discipleship program. Expect that not a lot of people are going to show up at first, aren't going to contribute to what's going on at first, but as it grows and develops, more and more people are going to build into the program. One of the key things you want to do first as you're starting to advance the parent discipleship program in your church is find a person who can be your parent resource person. You can do it yourself, but this parent resource person is going to grab ideas from our website and our materials or others, and you're going to be able to have information to access and equip the parents in your church. So the structure and the formatting are very important, and there's lots of variety here depending on your church and the strengths, the challenges, and the unique needs of the people that you're facing.
Well, Scott, I love what you just touched on there, which I think is so important for those who are doing this, in the trenches, in ministry, is that bring other people alongside you, those lay people, those parents, those grandparents who share that passion, because not only does it take it off of your plate, but it also then expands and grows the ministry internally within your people.
Yes, I think what you're doing is you're starting a movement in your church, okay? If you just say, hey, we're having a parenting small group, you're likely to get 1 or 2 people show up. But if you start by building the movement, then certain people are going to jump in there, going to say, hey, I want more of this, or that really blessed me. And you say, hey, would you be part of my prayer team? I want to launch this to be bigger in our church so that we become this place of discipleship. Jesus told us that we are to disciple people. Well, that discipleship is great, but it's not just discipling people in their personal, individual relationships with Christ. That's important, but it's helping them in their roles and relationships in family life. That's our mission. We want to help them do that. And parents need help knowing how to relate to their children, how to make changes in the dynamic, and how to build a Christ likeness into the lives of their children. So we want to help them with discipleship, and that discipleship includes dealing with tough subjects that have to do with a child who lies or a child who's mean to his brother. Does the Bible have things to say about that? Yes. In fact, the Bible provides us with lots of material to help every child in every situation to bring about change. And we believe parents are the best counselors, therapists, advisors, teachers for their children. And in order to do that, they need to have a good plan. So our goal is to help parents have a good plan. Your goal as a church is to do that too. You want parents to believe that the church is the place they're going to go to find the help that they need in order to equip their family in this area of parenting.
Yes, so we need a plan and we need tools. And then we want to create a movement within our church community that we become their source of resources, really, biblical resources to help them do that important work in their home. Beautiful.
Yes, I think that's true. And remember, though, there's the whole, it's not just about the techniques, it's about the vision. That we have this vision for biblical parenting, and many parents are using reward punishment kinds of models. And when you do that with kids, then it just builds selfishness inside of children. If you say to them, "I'll give you what you want if you do what I say," and you do that too much, what happens is that children develop this mentality that says, "What's in it for me? You're going to pay me for that?" And selfishness starts to grow. In an environment where we are now, where we're kind of closed down under COVID. I know a lot of people are watching this right when we're designing it, then there's a lot of pressure that develops, and you see the tension, you see the weaknesses that your child has. But it's not just under this pressure. We will see this continually. As parents and children are interacting, we get to see what's really going on in the hearts of children, and they need life skills. So learning how to clear the table after dinner is a life skill. It's not about getting the dishes cleaned up and the clothes put away. It's about learning how to contribute in the family. To be a contributing member of society, and society for a child is the family. Let's start here. Let's work on it here so that children can grow and develop. We're building the life skills children will use forever. It's happening in the family. We want children to understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and it's so practical and biblical at the same time. That's what's so wonderful about what we're talking about. But Scott, you and I both know that that every parent needs this, but they don't all know that they need it. So what do we do with those parents who need this, but either don't recognize yet their need, or maybe just don't want the help right now? I mean, especially in this season, don't you feel like a lot of people have kind of hunkered down, they're just doing the best they can, and we get that, but how do we bridge that gap?
Well, in this season, I'm finding more parents raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I know I need help now." So I do think that the pressure does increase the desire for help. But it is true that sometimes the parents who need it the most are the ones who don't seek help. But isn't that true about Christianity in general? I mean, we see our neighbors, we see our friends, we see our family members, and we say, if they would just accept Jesus, then things could be so much better in their lives. The same thing's true in discipleship. That we know that people need discipleship in their lives. And when we can empower parents, then good things happen. So here's what we do, and we always do it in the life of the church, is we take the ones who are willing. And there are people who are eager for help. They want to see Christ relating in an effective way, integrating their faith into their parenting. And when they do that, they'll make significant progress and change. But also remember that every family goes through cycles. The family might say, "Hey, we got it all under control now," but then their child comes home with a couple F's on the report card next week, and they go, "Whoa, I need to get some help." And then they go, "Where am I going to get that help?" If you've created a culture within the church that says, "Contact us, we're ready, we have solutions for you," then when they hit that roadblock or that bump in the road, they're going, "Whoa, I know where to go. There's some people there at the church that can help us." I think we want to look at parenting. Let's look at way in the future. After you've built the scenario, you're moving forward. What is it going to look like when you've got it up and running? It usually takes a couple years to get a good parenting ministry up and running as part of your DNA in your church. I would suggest you're going to have small groups that are interacting about parenting. You're going to have large events. You're going to have resources available, email contact with people. You're also going to have one-on-one coaching available. And we train coaches, biblical parenting coaches. Now you have a multifaceted way of connecting with parents, and when you do that, you've got something to offer. People will come to your church just because of the parenting and the family dynamic that's going on, because you are determined to equip parents and families in your church.
Well, and Scott, that's so true. And we have a great question actually from Emily that I'd love for us to answer live, which is, what are some unique ways that they can minister to parents during the pandemic, especially with, there are some parts of the country that are still under, restriction. Some are loosening up more than others. It's happening more quickly. We're already hearing about the second wave that's going to be happening. So would you speak to some particular ways that we can encourage parents when maybe we can't do a large gathering together, or, maybe someone's not comfortable doing a one-on-one coaching scenario yet?
Emily, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. And I want to just suggest to you, think about parents for a moment. Parents are busy people, often unwilling or unable because of their schedules to attend a physical church event where you are working through a small group or something like that. But if we use technology in this particular time when parents are challenged and we're sending out emails, we're offering a Zoom meeting occasionally in the evening. Parents have a lot more time on their hands now than they did before if their children were attending sports events and music events at school. And so now we've got opportunity with parents that we didn't have before. Using electronic means in parenting ministry is strategic, both during a pandemic and also in other times in the course of church life. So I would say one of the greatest things you can do is take these ideas, use them electronically. So you're putting out every week or every couple weeks, you're putting out ideas to the lives of those parents. Maybe it's an idea of how they can engage with their child spiritually, but you're producing some things that will be really helpful for them and using our modern or our contemporary challenge that we're facing in some positive ways.
I think that that's so important, because what we're talking about is, this is really a relationship that we're building between church leaders and parents, and then helping them build the relationship between parents and children, or grandparents and children, whatever the situation may be. And we are so fortunate, aren't we, Scott, to be in a time where we have this type of technology where we can still be fostering those relationships. The other thing it makes me think of, and to the point of Emily's question here too, is kind of knowing where your parents are going to get their information. Some may be more likely to want to go to email. Some are on social media, different types of social media. Others may still like a good old-fashioned phone call. Have you worked with churches and talked through those different types of communication styles and figuring out how to communicate with parents?
Yes, I think it's very important that, number one, on the really nuts and bolts area of developing the parenting ministry in your church. So one is vision. You're casting vision, but then immediately you want to find a parent resource person. That's going to be your key leader. Then you're going to find communication vehicles you're going to use, which is email, bulletin inserts when we're gathering together, statements from the platform, and all kinds of different ways that we're going to use. You have to choose those communication vehicles, and you want to start gathering your group of interested parties. So you have the large net you're sending out information to, but then you've got your VIP parents, very intentional parents, who are the ones who you're ministering to, recommending books, interacting with, so that you can help them overcome some of the sometimes parents don't want to be transparent about their challenges at home, because they feel like, oh, I'm the only one with problems with my kids. But when they start interacting with others, they start overcoming their shame, should I say, about maybe the problems they're experiencing, and they're able to go further and say, oh, wow, this is great. I'm on this with other people, and I can get some help here. This is really helpful.
Well, and that really start to answer, our friend Ben has chimed in here with a few questions and, asking if I go to a parenting class, does it mean I'm not doing a good job? So how does the church help counter that attitude? And it's exactly what you said. It's kind of once you can rally folks to the importance of this and get them there, they realize they're not alone. And so, Scott, before you address that, let me just remind our participants and attendees, feel free to use that Q&A option. Just you can type your question in there and we will get to as many as we can. I saw someone raise their hand as well. Best thing to do is just go ahead and type in that Q&A if you've got a question, and we will do our best to get to it. So Scott, do you feel like is there something that needs to be done before they come to a parenting class to help kind of reduce any stigma or perceived stigma that may be there?
Here's what I would suggest, and this is what we do at the National Center for Biblical Parenting. We focus on the child, not on the parent. Because if you focus on the child, we and the parents can both agree this child has an anger problem. This child is getting poor grades at school. This child is not thriving the way he or she should. Has a problem, and likely this child's going to need a little bit more different approach than what's currently going on. I would say it in the church, we're working with good parents. Good parents are working with challenging children. What that means is that challenging children need some specialized care and help. So what we do is we say, hey, we've got some ideas about helping that kind of a child. And if we can help your child make some significant changes, then what is that going to do? The parent's going to have to adjust. But the parent doesn't mind adjusting. Why? Because they love this child and they want to help that child to grow. So it means that their approach may change, but they're doing it because we're focusing in on the child. I think this is going to do a lot to relieve the pressure that sometimes parents feel about going to a parenting class. It's as if, oh, I've got to go to remedial training because I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't about that. This is about your child needs some extra help. We've got solutions that can help you. The church has a lot of resources that we can support you and encouraging you in the most difficult job in the world. That focus on the child is really what helps offset some of this self-blaming and guilt and shaming that sometimes parents feel.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, and that's a good word. So how would you convey, this is from our friend Glenn, he says, how can you convey a you can do this mentality to parents? So, you're alluding to it a little bit in what you just shared, but I think what parents want to hear, especially in this time where there's so much uncertainty, is that this is possible, that change is possible for their family, that change is possible, positive change for their children. How would you answer that?
I find that many parents are in this, I'm going to endure it. I'm going to endure this period of time. This isn't just about the pandemic, okay? There are a lot of parents of 13, 14-year-olds that say, I'm just going to have to endure this until they get to be 18, thinking that when they're 18, they'll be out of the house. But if we don't do some things right now, they won't be out of the house when they're 18. They'll still be living there until they're 23. So we've got to do some work now that will equip them. I think the key is we have to be practical. We can't just be telling parents what, we have to show parents how. And this is where I've spent my life, just enjoying getting into the lives of families. When I work with a set of clients every week, an 8 weeks program, I'm in the lives of families. And what I really enjoy when I'm working with parents is I like hearing the details of what's happening, because when I do, then I can provide those practical ideas. And we've written those in books and we've got blog posts. And I think that as church leaders find a resource person who's ready to work on this and learn and experience these, then you hear about this child over here who's failing in school. They're just not doing well. What's the problem here? And so they can channel some solutions to them, but it has to be practical. Biblical and practical. Biblical because we want to tie it into the faith that the parent has so it fuels them in those difficult times so they can stay on track and do what they need to do. But practical so they know what to do. Parents have to know what to do, not just, they need to know how to do it, not just what to do. So that's what we're trying to help them with.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're getting some additional excellent questions here. Dave says, what are some ways to make parents believe that we are not trying to teach them how to parent, but rather that we're coming alongside them as teammates? How do we start that mentality of we're in this together, we're on the same team?
Dave, I appreciate your question. It's a great question. And I do believe we need to communicate to parents that we're not standing in judgment over them. We are coaching them as they are coaching their children. So I think this is important to kind of reverse this a little bit, because sometimes parents feel like they're the policeman for their children, and they feel like they're dominating them, and the children feel like, oh man, they don't like the role relationship that parents have with them. We want to adjust that, because really what parents are coming alongside to coach children to have the life skills that they need to be successful. And yes, those are encouraging words, but it's also encouraging actions. And sometimes children need firmness in order to make progress in their lives. But parents can do that with children. Now, as we come alongside parents, it's all about an attitude. It's not all about you have a problem, your kids are messed up because of you. The problem is, your children have some challenges. We have some ideas that can equip you and strengthen you as you're working with your child. Let's just talk about some of those. Let me give you an article to think about. Let me share with you a book to read, or let me have a discussion with you about what it looks like to think about this. And sometimes church leaders feel like, I don't have answers for these kids' problems. It's overwhelming. The reality is that's how I feel sometimes when a parent comes to me and tells me their story. And the story is so outrageous. I go, God, what are you going to do with this one? But I know that God gives grace to every parent for every child. And sometimes a word that I use, sometimes just the encouragement, a parent already knows what they need to start working on. They'll start doing it. They'll see progress, and good things will come. We are supporting parents. I really like your question, Dave. It just helps us recognize that.
Absolutely. Well, and we've gotten a couple of questions that are very similar, just in terms of, we know that there's so much brokenness. And if nothing else, COVID-19 and the racial issues that we're dealing with have just really magnified the brokenness of our culture and even in our own families. So how do we help reach and minister to kids from broken or dysfunctional family? I mean, we're all a little dysfunctional, right, Scott? I mean, nobody's perfect, but how are there some specific tools, especially given this season, where we can really deal with some of those special and difficult situations?
Yeah, and Mel, I appreciate your question along those lines. And I think this is so important. We must recognize that the family today has lots of different faces. We're dealing with adoptive parents whose children have special needs. We're dealing with special needs parents. We're dealing with foster care, children who are in foster care. We're dealing with single parents, blended families. We're dealing with grandparents who are working with children, but we all have something in common. We are working with children. And the fact that we're working with children means we can focus on them. And this child, because of their difficult experience, needs a particular kind of care. Here's the beauty of this. God has designed the family to be a laboratory for growth and development. So when we start helping our child make changes and develop their ability to handle anger, you know what that does? It does something for the parent too, because the parent says, I need some of this for myself. And so now this family's in this growth experience that's contributing to some wholeness and healing. We are praying for healing. We're praying for God's grace to do an amazing work. If we focus in on the child, we all have them. That's why we're working together. And no matter what background we have, we can help that child grow. A corollary question to this, Jenna, is this. A parent will say, well, I only have my child every other weekend and Thursdays. And I go, and what can I do? Because the other parent's not doing here's what I want to say to you. Don't minimize the power of influence that you have in your child's life. Yes, the other family will be doing something different. They have their own rules, but your child's watching you. They're watching the example that you have. And when that child's in your home, you're talking about your convictions and what God is doing in your life. That is powerful. And I just want to encourage you to keep on doing your work and maximize the influence that you have on the life of that child.
Oh, Scott, that is so encouraging to all of us, because our kids are looking to us. I think some of us, I remember, in the early years of parenting my kids, feeling like everything out there has so much influence. But as I began to study, I realized, no, statistics actually show that I do have the greatest influence in the life of my child from the time they're born until as long as I'm in their life, you know, and so that's something that's so encouraging to me. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Christine kind of chimed in that her parenting is Heart Workbook is worn out and that she goes back to it all the time. And I think hopefully that's an encouragement to you, Scott and Joanne, that this is timeless and so important. We have just a quick minute left. Is there something you want to share with the leaders on the call before we scoot out?
Yeah, let me just say this. You as a leader are in a key role in the life of parents, but parents don't realize it sometimes. They just think they're coming for personal discipleship. If you make it known that in your church, you are concerned about families and want to empower them to move forward, then you can have a huge impact. It just starts small. It's a movement. If you can gather 2 or 3 families together and they start working and praying together, it grows and grows and grows. Don't be discouraged about the numbers. A movement starts small and grows, and as it does, God can do an amazing work through your church. It often takes 2 years to develop a functioning parent discipleship program in the church. We'd love to come along and help you and work with you in the midst of that. So feel free to reach out to us in the midst.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, Scott Turansky with National Center for Biblical Parenting sharing strategies for equipping families during this COVID-19 time and beyond. We need those practical tools. We need a plan. And remember that it's God's heart that we're doing this work, that He desires this for our families. And He will give us the grace to do what we need to do. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Scott, thank you for sharing your wisdom and tools. Again, biblicalparenting.org, you can get those free resources that Scott had up on the screen for us. And equipfamilies.net is where you're going to go if you want to register to watch some of our upcoming, or if you want to look at the recordings of previous sessions. This is actually the first one. So if you're watching this live, there are 6 more to come after this. So grateful that you would join us. God bless you all. Scott, thanks again.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you. And folks, Jenna's going to be up. They're going to be interviewing Jenna about family time, a great resource that you can use right now. So each one of the leaders here are interviewing each other. Watch for Jenna's interview coming up pretty soon. She's got some great tools that she'll offer you as well for your families.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody. Take care. God bless you. Have a great day.